also going to be discussing some measures that are going to be on your ballot that are controversial here. And I'm actually from Placer County, so I don't even know what that is. Although we are an area of a lot of controversy too. Maybe some of you have heard of our Central Committee. Our Central Committee's like known all around the state, and I mean that in a negative way, unfortunately. I'm on it though. I'm on the Central Committee. I don't know why. I don't know why I decided to join it, but I did. And it's fun. It's not as horrible as you could imagine. But the reason I'm here today is I'm here on behalf of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. They're known primarily for Prop 13. That's probably the number one thing that HJTA is known for. How many of you here have heard of Prop 13? Anybody who hasn't heard of Prop 13? I know. Well, awesome. Then I don't need to tell you what it is. So HJTA is known for that. It's saved taxpayers literally hundreds of billions of dollars since it was enacted in 1978. It's really one of the few things that holds the California political establishment back from raising our taxes. Our income tax, and I don't like to, I'm really actually a relatively happy guy, but these statistics are true. Our income tax, our sales tax, our income and sales tax, our gas tax, they're all the highest, or I think they're all the highest in the nation. And then our business tax is the highest in the West. And our property tax, it's not low. It is not ridiculously high. It's not number one. It's number 17, is last I heard from a friend who keeps track of those things. Number 17. And the liberal establishment, unfortunately, they want to be number one in every tax, including that one. So they're trying to get rid. They are trying to get rid of Prop 13 all the time. If you're on the Howard Jarvis mailing list, you probably got all of these mailers all the time that are like, they want to get rid of Prop 13, and those mailers are true. But because of your support, we still have Prop 13. And I'm going to give you some bad news, but I'm going to start with some really good news that I think you all will really like. There was an initiative that was in circulation that had millions of dollars and received hundreds of thousands of signatures to partially repeal Prop 13. That's the strategy of opponents of Prop 13, not to repeal it 100%, but mainly to go after the 2/3 requirement, to go after businesses. So what these guys wanted to do was repeal Prop 13 for large properties valued at over $3 million. So probably some people in here might have property over $3 million. I don't know. I don't. I wish I did. One day I'd like to believe I will. But some people have homes that are worth more than $3 million, especially in certain areas where there's a lot of wealthy people. But especially businesses have properties that are worth more than $3 million, and that just goes right down to your rent, to people who live in an apartment building. Apartments can be affected by that because an apartment building a lot of times is worth more than $3 million, and when an owner of property, when they have to pay more taxes, if they have to pay more, in anything, the idea of a landlord is to make money by renting the property. So they'll pass those on to higher rents for their tenants, higher rents. I own a small business, and we have a small office, and I don't know. I don't know if our office building is worth more than $3 million, but it probably is. It's pretty big. We just have a small space in there, but the building itself is pretty big. So a lot of people would be affected. Jobs would be affected. More people would be leaving our state. I have a friend that does planning, like financial planning kind of stuff, and he said that when they did Prop 30, how many of you remember Prop 30? All right, not everybody. 4 years ago, they raised our income tax and our sales tax. And that was Prop 30. It really, like, a lot of people, especially wealthy people, were not happy with it. So they went to my friend, the financial planner, who surprisingly is also a liberal, even though he, works in this field. He should know better. So people would go to him and be like, well, I need to find out how many days of the year I need to live in Las Vegas or live in Incline Village. Lake Las Vegas and Incline Village, Nevada, those are two nice places to live in Nevada. A lot of wealthy people, wealthy Californians, and the answer to that question is about 2 months of the year. So a lot of people were like, well, I can live in Lake Las Vegas for 2 months, maybe rent, buy a condo and rent it the other 10 months, use it as a vacation rental. It's a nice vacation place to go. I've never been there, but it seems really nice. Or Incline Village. Property values in Incline Village following Prop 30 just skyrocketed up. So in any event, this Prop 13, repeal of Prop 13 for property over $3 million, we were fighting it. What I do for HJTA is I'm their Director of Grassroots Operations, so I'm not the guy that, I don't analyze all of the legislation. I'm not an attorney. They have attorneys that work for them. But what I do is I go to the community and I work in their booths. People walk up to me and I say, hey, how you doing? And they say to me, can you tell me what section such and such of the Revenue and Taxation Code means and how it applies to me? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. But you could call their office and they'll tell you. So I don't do that, but I do coalition building and outreach. So I work on a lot of the campaigns, and I'm really proud of what we did, because we built a coalition, we reached out to the media, we got the business community involved, and we did such a good job with our campaign. And this, honestly, I have to admit, disappointed me a little bit, because I like campaigns. So we did such a good job with our campaign that our opponents did something that almost never happens. That we put up such a big fight. They were like, oh my goodness, well, forget this. And they just went home. They withdrew their initiative. So we defeated them before this even made it to the ballot. This is gone. We don't have to worry about it. Maybe in 2 years we'll have to worry about it again. But we defeated this. It's not even going to be on the ballot. So thank you to all of you that make HJTA's work possible, because we defeated this basically without even having to put up a real fight. We scared them so much that it went away. So that's my good news that I'm starting with. And but now I've got some other things to share that are maybe not as good. Prop 30, I just mentioned that a moment ago. I'm going to talk for you a moment about what's going to be on our ballot this November. So this is going to be a big election, high turnout election. It's a presidential election. A lot of people come out when there's a presidential election. They're much more exciting. I think they're much more exciting. So you get high turnout. But unfortunately, with high turnout, you also get more people who are less informed, and tax raisers really like to put taxes on the ballot for people who are less informed, because they'll vote and they don't really examine the actual fundamentals of what's being discussed as much. Prop 30, that is going to be on the ballot as an extension. They said it was a temporary tax increase, and unfortunately with the politicians, when they say it's a temporary tax, once they get the money, that they really never met a tax they don't like, they'll never give up the money. So they're trying to extend it. That's the polite word. They're trying to extend it another, I think it's 10 years. I'm not 100% sure. But and obviously, no doubt, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever, if that is approved, in 10 years, they'll want to extend it 10 years or 20 years or whatever they think they can get away with. So that's going to be on our ballot. One thing that is encouraging is the Chamber of Commerce has endorsed the opposition to that. So the Chamber of Commerce was actually not sure whether or not they would oppose it. Chamber of Commerce often opposes taxes, but they don't always, but they are opposing it, so we're going to have a campaign. There's going to be resources, I imagine, to fight back, and I'll be in touch with you all, asking for your help. We're all going to need to fight back because all the government employee unions and all kinds of powerful, wealthy special interests, they're going to spend money. But that's not all. There's going to be a number of taxes on the ballot. Tobacco taxes are coming back, and that's an issue that I like. I mean, I like it just because I've gotten to work on it before and I know about it. So I worked on Prop 29, that was just a few years ago. I don't know, that's probably more obscure. I am curious though, as long as I'm asking, how many of you remember Prop 29? Yep. A few of you. Okay, good. So that like 40 million or whatever that they spent advertising, it worked to a certain degree. They want to raise cigarette taxes from now 87 cents a pack to $2 a pack. They tried to do that Prop 29, they tried to do it Prop 86. There was legislation that I also got to work on, opposing it, to do that through the Capitol. And this just gets rejected over and over by the people. People have said, no, we don't feel this is necessary, but it keeps coming back over and over and over again. And a lot of people feel like, well, why should I care about that? I don't smoke, so smokers have to pay more. It's kind of like I have green eyes. That's kind of a little bit unusual. That's the rarest eye color, by the way. So it's like, why not tax people who have green eyes and then just distribute all the money to everybody else? So you would think you could win easily that way, because 90% of people don't have green eyes. So just take the money from those 10% who do. And that's kind of like what the strategy is of a tobacco tax. Only 20% or so of people smoke, and look at all that money we can take from them, and the other 80% don't need to worry about it. But you know what? A couple of things happen. So when they create a tax, so they $2 tax, it's like $1 to $2 billion a year that they want to use, of money that they're going to get, that they're hoping to get. Interesting thing is, there's so much smuggling, so much, and you know what the smuggling, you know where that money goes when they smuggle cigarettes and sell them out of the back of trucks. I mean, it's been documented. We're losing hundreds of millions in tax revenue right now to smuggling, and where the money's going, it's going to like some really bad people. It's going to the mafia, to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to like literal terrorist groups in the Middle East are being funded by cigarette smuggling here. Do you know in New York, the cigarette tax, the pack of cigarettes in New York is about $10. So cigarettes there are tremendously valuable. And cigarette trucks are so valuable to criminals that they're worth more than a money truck. And they gotta drive them with I know, right? They gotta drive them with armed escorts, with the way you would drive a truck full of uranium or something. So it's a public safety issue. Law enforcement typically opposes these taxes. Prop 29, when we did the legislation, the previous Proposition 86, law enforcement was very much against all of them for those reasons. But one more thing. So when they don't get the money because of the smuggling, because some people stop smoking, although it's questionable how many really do and how many just get smuggled cigarettes, but when they don't get the money they expect, and I looked at a chart once of all these other states that have done tobacco taxes, like all of them, other than Hawaii, because it's an island and it's really hard to smuggle cigarettes into Hawaii, unless it's like a 5-hour boat trip to Guam or somewhere, but it's really hard to smuggle cigarettes to Hawaii. But almost everywhere else, maybe Alaska too, was problematic. They've got a lot less revenue, because they just say, oh well, we sell 200 million packs of cigarettes a year, and it's this much tax, so that we have all this money, and they don't take into account the smuggling and all of that aspect. So what happens is, they don't have the money for the wonderful programs that they've created. So they've created all of these wonderful programs, and they've hired all of these wonderful people to be government employees who, are doing things to benefit our society, and then they don't have the money to pay those wonderful people and continue those wonderful programs, for the children and for the, for the animals and for the environment. So obviously you all are not horrible people. So you care about the children and the animals and the environment. So you're going to need to pay a little bit to make up the shortfall for those programs because the tobacco tax didn't generate the money that they expected. So really, this tax on smokers, besides being a public safety problem, is a tax on all of us, because when they don't get the money, they're going to come for everybody else, because they're not going to want to, see those wonderful programs end. So those taxes are going to be on the ballot. There's also a bag ban and tax we're all going to vote on. They banned bags and plastic bags. That is, it hasn't happened yet because it was subject to a referendum. I got to work on that too. I guess this has become my life. I didn't think 10 years ago this would be what I would spend the next 10 years doing, but I have had the opportunity to work on all this stuff. So the bag ban and tax, it's I think 10 cents a bag for a paper bag. So you're not allowed to have a plastic bag at all, but you will be allowed to have a paper bag, but you'll need to pay a 10-cent tax, and that's going to generate like $600 million a year or something. The grocers are actually going to keep it, which is a really weird tax. To have a tax that the grocers get to keep for something they used to provide for free, but there was a backroom deal made in the legislature that that was the only way the grocers would go along with it if they could keep the money. So that's the idea. I know, right? This is ridiculous, but it's also really what happened. So that's going to be on the ballot. There's going to be a referendum. We can get rid of that, get rid of the bag ban and tax. I'm 99% sure HJTA has already taken a formal position that they want to get rid of the bag ban and tax. Two things, though, I want to share that are also going to be on the ballot that HJTA has endorsed, that HJTA supports, that are good, is, and some of you might have heard from me on these as well, related to the signature gathering to get these things on the ballot. One of them is called the Stop Special Interest Money Initiative, and one of them is called the California Legislature Transparency Act. Have any of you heard of either of those? Okay, three people have heard of one or the other of that. So I guess we still have a little bit of work to do educating people. But the California Legislature Transparency Act, it's really good. It's not like going to change the world, but it is a step in the right direction. What it is that have you ever heard that the politicians did something really bad? Like I feel like you wouldn't be here if you hadn't heard that. So sometimes you hear the politician that did something really bad, and a lot of times you hear that they did it so fast. You never even knew this thing was being considered. A lot of times the lobbyists and the politicians, this really happens, unfortunately. The lobbyists and the politicians, they get together and the lobbyists say, well, hey, why don't you do something for us? And they say, well, we don't want people to know that we're doing this because that might make them mad. So they're like, well, we need to do it really fast so nobody notices. So what they do is the lobbyists write the bill and then they just pass it like the next day before anybody can know that it happened. And then you read that thing in the newspaper, things that are going to be law next year or whatever, and you're like, when did that happen? And you weren't supposed to know. That's not the way our system was supposed to work. Also, did you know our government is supposed to be transparent and accountable? We're supposed to, supposedly, I know some of you were laughing, but it is supposed to be transparent and accountable. So you would think that this would be okay. Imagine you're in a hearing, they're discussing some public policy matter, that's of interest to our society, and you were to just take out your smartphone and do a little recording of what's being discussed and share it on your Facebook page. Maybe my family lives in LA. So maybe your family would be interested, or your friends in some other part of the state, or people in this part of the state who don't have the ability to go to the Capitol. I don't even have the ability to go to the Capitol on a regular basis because I don't work there. I work, doing things like what I'm doing right now. So your friends can watch it and be like, oh my goodness, that wasn't good at all. And then they can share it with their friends, and it can become known by the public. Well, if you're an unethical politician, you're not going to like that. And that is actually illegal. I mean, you would think that a public meeting is a totally public thing. You record a clip of it on your phone. That's not allowed. The sergeant at arms will come up to you and tell you got to stop that. And that's like North Korea kind of stuff. But that's actually how it works. So the Legislature Transparency Act would require that all legislation be put online for the whole world to see 72 hours before it can be voted on. It would have to be, we would have a right to watch the hearings, so all the hearings would be posted online. Many hearings are already posted online, but for example, they had a hearing on Prop 13 where they said some negative things about Prop 13. They didn't put that hearing online. So they would have to put all of the hearings online. Nothing can be done, like that, or there's kind of a hearing and not tell anybody about it. It would be online. And the other thing is, you would have the right to record that public meeting and share it on social media with your friends, because that seems very much like an obvious First Amendment right we should have, but we don't, unfortunately, right now. This will be on your ballot. We submitted hundreds and hundreds of thousands of signatures. It's something we can do to make our government just a little more accountable, a little more transparent, to level the playing field. Maybe not, as much as we would like, but at least level the playing field a little bit between the people and the lobbyists and the politicians. So look for that on your ballot. I'll probably be communicating with you at some point about how you can help with that. And the one last thing I want to share is the Stop Blank Checks initiative. That's another thing that I'm also involved in that Howard Jarvis has endorsed, called the Stop Blank Checks initiative. How many of you knew we have $330 billion in unsustainable debt in our state alone? Nobody raised their hand. Probably you just knew it was a big number.
Yeah.
But that's the number, $330 billion. So that's a phenomenally huge, ridiculous amount of money. But the politicians, you may not be aware, can issue new revenue bonds without a vote of the people. General obligation bonds, that's another type of bond. They actually need to put that to a vote. But for state projects that are very big, that affect our whole state, that are going to be in huge amounts of money, over $2 billion, they can do those and just do them. But the Stop Blank Checks initiative would mean that for any project over $2 billion, they would need to ask us. They would need, it's our money, right? So they would need to ask us. We would get to vote on it. And another reason this is really good is a lot of times they say, well, we're going to spend, $4 billion to do, a wonderful thing. It's going to be great for our society. It's going to be for the children. It's going to be for the environment. It's going to be for our future. It's going to be so that no child can ever be sad ever again. And we're going to spend $4 billion on it, and that's going to change our world for the better, so we can all be happy now. But a lot of times what happens is they spend the $4 billion, and then they're like, well, we're really sorry, but we kind of ran into some unanticipated issues that we didn't know would happen. So it's actually going to cost $5 billion more. And then they spend the $5 billion more, and they're like, well, gosh darn it. We still need more money. You want us all to be happy, right? So we need more money. And then they just keep spending money. this would require that they make an accurate estimate of how much money they really need, and then they would need to go and get that debt issued, and the people who they would be going to, the investors, Wall Street, they do their books with sharp pencils. So they're gonna need to look at this. They're gonna know that however much money is being requested, that's it, and they're not gonna want a half-finished project. The reason why is because revenue bonds are repaid by the users of that project. So high-speed rail is forecast to be paid for with revenue bonds, and the way they expect to get that money back is through ticket sales. So if you're the investor, you're going to need to make sure that everything pencils out, or that investor won't be paid back. So that's why it gives us a whole layer of accountability and transparency. I mentioned high-speed rail. That is one of the ones that would be voted on were this proposal to pass. So that's also going to be on your ballot. There's some other things on the ballot, other things that are pending qualification, but as far as I'm aware, those, as of right now, are kind of the main tax measures, and the two that are being supported by HJTA. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, number one, actually, we would like you to endorse the Stop Blank Checks initiative, so go to stopblankchecks.com. You, sir, as leader of the group. We're not listing the Tea Party chapters directly on the website, but we are just trying to create a database of who we can go to in the future and ask people to volunteer and to help out. So I'd like to ask you if that would be okay for us to sign up the El Dorado Hills Tea Party. And then also for all of you all, sign up online, stopblankchecks.com, to receive email updates. Go to the HJTA Facebook page, facebook.com/HJTA. If you're on Twitter, we're on Twitter too. If you're on Instagram, we're there too. I'm actually in charge of all of those, and my colleague Damien. Damien's awesome. Hopefully you get to meet him one day. It's a lot of fun. I think our neighbors think that they have obnoxious frat guys in the office next to them, but we have fun. So we run those social media feeds. Sign up for those, and most importantly, sign up for the organization itself as a member. HJTA has 200,000 members in California, which is a phenomenally huge movement of people. When our lobbyist goes to the Capitol and says that he speaks for 200,000 people, a lot of times when you're on the more conservative side, they want to say that people like you and me don't really exist, or that's just the big corporations or whatever. They don't actually listen to us. But when we can say that we represent 200,000 citizen taxpayers throughout the state, that's a movement that they have to take notice of. $15 a year, so pretty nominal amount of money to be part of it. I've got some brochures in the back that you can fill out and mail back to them. I've got bumper stickers that are free that say Protect Prop 13. I've got a couple of fact sheets about those two HJTA supported measures I talked about. And I don't know if we're going to do question and answers now or what, but that's what I have to share.
What's the status of the fire tax repeal?
That's a good question, and it is unfortunately a legal aspect of things, and lawsuits have a tendency to take forever. So that's what's happening. The lawyers are. It's gotten its class action certification, which was a big step legally, and the lawyers are working on it. I know it's people feel like it's taking a long time, because it really is taking a long time, but it's going as fast as it can, and unfortunately also the state's lawyers have been stalling it, because the state's lawyers are concerned that it might not be. They might not be correct, they might lose, so they're doing everything they can to make it take a long time. So that's where that stands. I wish I could tell you we're gonna win tomorrow, but it's probably gonna taking a long time, and it's unfortunately probably gonna take a lot more time. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much.
All right, you all inspiring.